Are you human?
That is a good question, Scarlett. Most of the time, that is questionable answer.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm human, but I mean, I guess that's up for debate, right? So,
For sure.
on that topic, I'm Scarlett,
And I'm Echo.
and I think we're about ready to have some weird, strange, and unforgettable conversations. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to
What are
you?
we talking about today?
You want to guess?
Are we going to talk about aliens?
No, but asking you if you're human would have been a funny way to start an alien podcast now, wouldn't it? No, that's not
It-
this week. Got another guess? Any other guess?
are we talking about the Axeman of New Orleans?
You and that axe man. No, we are not. I think that's one thing that people are going to find out about you right away. You're just obsessed with that Axeman of New Orleans, aren't you?
Maybe a little bit.
Well, one day. I promise one day you will get to talk about your Axeman. How many
Thank you.
rules do I have about paranormal stuff? Like in general, can you guess?
I would say 10 rules.
10 rules? Maybe. I need to write them all down one day and count them out, and we can make that a whole conversation on the podcast. What about paranormal games? How do you feel about that?
I think in general, that's probably a no-no.
Yeah, I mean, top of the list, no.
Yeah.
Ouija boards, all that stuff. That's just like a big no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Why don't we talk about some of those do not do it games?
Oh, that sounds
Ooh.
like fun.
Name a paranormal / ritual game that you should never play. Can you?
Don't play hide and seek with the ghosts.
There's 2 different versions that I found of that. Both of them seem like bad news. I picked about. No, I picked 4 that I wrote down stuff on. I thought if I picked more than that, we'd be going way over. I picked ones that are seemingly easy to do, which I guess I shouldn't have done when the overall theme of this is do not do it. We don't recommend you play any of these games.
Not at all.
Not at all. No.
It's not simply fuck with the paranormal.
Yeah, you just don't do that. That's rule number 1. Let's make that rule number 1 on the great rules that you're gonna get from us of a mini, I'm sure. But we're gonna start with the closet game. Have you heard of that one?
I think I have.
Do you want to guess what it is?
I would assume you go in the closet and try to summon a ghost in the closet.
A little bit worse than that. You're basically summoning a demon.
Ah.
Yeah. So this game, kind of like almost all of these, really dodgy on where it came from. It, for a short amount of time, was on the Creepypasta wiki, but it was actually it was actually deleted off there in September of 2015. I went ahead and I clicked on it and I went to the Creepypasta wiki because I wanted to make sure that was an actual thing. And it is not on there. So that was kind of an interesting fact I found about it. Basically, this game has nothing to gain from winning. Really, it all lies on the theme of tempting fate.
Okay. So again, unless you're willing to risk your life, probably don't try it.
Probably not. So, of course, as the name says, it requires you have a closet, but it also requires a match.
Okay.
So basically, you wait until nighttime, you turn off all the lights in the room. If the closet has a light, you make sure it's off. Everything's off, nice and dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, you open the closet, you step in, you close the door, pitch black, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, here's where fear would set in for me. I don't know about anybody else. You're in a small space, probably. It is pitch black. And then you have to stand there and not move or speak for 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay. Already sounds like a bad time. Like, if you're playing this game, I don't know how bored you would have to be. But let's just not go into that because I don't think I could stand still for 2 minutes in a tiny closet.
Yeah, I get a little fidgety.
And so then, after the 2 minutes are up, you're supposed to hold out the match in front of you and say, show me the light or leave me in the darkness.
Simple enough.
Yeah, pretty simple. Too simple, right? So if you hear whispers after you say this, you are to immediately light this match that you are holding out in front of you and then wait.
For what?
That's the thing. You're just supposed to wait.
Okay.
That's all I could find was you're supposed to light it and wait, I guess, for a minute or whatever. But if you don't hear anything, you're not supposed to turn around or look around you, but you're supposed to stand there and wait for a minute and hold this match out in front of you in the darkness. Now, if you made it this far, you're going to exit the closet. Again, nowhere did it say the amount of time you're supposed to wait. I've read several things about this game, but you're supposed to walk out of the closet, close the door, and turn all the lights back on in this room. But the thing is as you're walking out of this closet, if you had to light the match, You have to keep that match lit as you're leaving the closet.
All right.
And until you get the lights turned back on. If it goes out, you have to relight another match immediately.
All right.
So once all this is done, you finish the game pretty much. Except for the fact that once you leave, you're never supposed to look in the closet again, especially if the lights are out.
Basically, don't do it in your closet if you're going to do it.
The thing is they say never, but inevitably, if it's in your bedroom, you're going to look in this closet again. Yeah. But you're supposed to make sure the lights are on. So people that have done it, that have completed this ritual, say that they have seen and heard weird things happening around the closet at night. What a surprise there, right? They also say that if you leave the door open, that sometimes you will see two floating red lights that seem to be glaring out of the closet at you, almost like two eyes.
All right.
So, and then I went on to read the comment section on one of the websites, which of course had stories. I didn't copy any of the stories because I was at a point where I was like, I don't know if this is real or not. And maybe that's another podcast we can do. Go into the stories of some of the things of people playing this game. I know some of these games, I don't know about the closet game, but I know some of them you can look up on YouTube and watch people playing them.
Okay.
So if you're curious, maybe do that.
Yeah, don't do it yourself.
Yeah, don't do it yourself. Maybe just watch other people do it.
Never take the risk.
You don't risk the paranormal.
For sure.
Or the unexplained or anything like that. And of course, I guess the good thing about this episode is there are thousands of these games, so we can do another one of these.
Yeah. I know Japanese culture has a lot of paranormal games.
Well, one of these, and I might, Google it again real quick while we're on here, said it originated in Korea.
Okay.
And it's the last one we're going to talk about because it is actually the first game that I've sat down like this and read about that kind of inspired me to look more into them and see what else I could find. Because you have your obvious ones, like the hide and seek, the Midnight Man, which of course we can talk about these another time. I wanted to kind of go with the ones that weren't the big topics that most people talk about.
Yeah.
But still not good games.
Yeah.
So the next one, little less paranormal, but it falls under those games that you should never play. It's called Red Door, Yellow Door.
I feel like I've heard the name of this game, but I don't remember how you play it.
It's also known as Doors of the Mind or Black Door, White Door.
Okay.
Do you want to take any stab or guess at what it is?
I kind of feel like maybe we did this in elementary school.
I really hope you didn't.
I mean, what I'm remembering of Red Door, Yellow Door is you close your eyes, you picture these doors, and somebody's talking you through it, and you say, do you pick the red door or the yellow door? And if you pick the yellow door, you're gonna die by electrocution. If you pick the red door, you get your throat slit or something.
What kind of games were you playing in elementary school?
I don't know. Ask Brittany. I'm sure I learned it with her.
Was this 4th grade? Was this when me and you met for the first time? Was it around then?
I mean, very possibly.
Because that would explain so much stuff about me and you. And our friendship. Because when we first met, you were we were both in elementary school because you're younger than you.
Yeah, we would have been I would have been in 5th grade and you would have been in 4th.
I thought you were in 4th and I was in 3rd.
Maybe.
I don't know. This is off topic.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, but that's a really strange game with really, really odd consequences for an elementary school kid to be playing.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like it was elementary school, but time bleeds together for me sometimes.
Well, you were really close, kind of. You're picking doors. You really are. And it does take place in your mind. So basically, it's a 2-player game, but in this case, this game can have an audience. The rules are simple, but some really messed up stuff can happen while you're playing this game.
Okay.
So one player is essentially the guide, and the other player is, the website's called them the object, but the other player is the person that is being led through.
Okay.
So basically, the guide sits on the floor and they cross their legs with a pillow in their lap. And the subject, or as the one weird website I read called it, the object, will lay down on the ground with their head in the guide's lap and their hands raised in the air. So then at this point, the guide will begin to massage the subject's temples in a circular motion, chanting red door, yellow door, any other color door, over and over. So can you imagine that? Can you imagine being laid in somebody's lap while they're chanting and rubbing your temples?
I mean, that would probably feel really, really weird, but I mean, stranger things have happened.
I mean, I guess. So if there is other people in the room, they will be sitting around, they will be joining in the chanting with the guide. So as the subject slips into the trance, they will find themselves in a room in their mind. And at this point, they should lower their arms to the floor, signaling to the guide and the witnesses to stop chanting.
Okay.
So this is where the game begins, essentially. So the guide will ask questions to the other player to get them to describe the room.
Okay.
So anybody else that's witnessing the game should be quiet. The guide is really the only one person allowed to talk to the player at all.
Okay.
So the guide can ask questions like, what color are the doors to the room? How do you feel about the doors? And then they will instruct them to move about the rooms, going through various doors to other rooms. And the subject is encouraged to answer all the questions and to answer them honestly until the guide decides to end the game. You're putting your faith in this other person.
All right.
So there are some warning signs and signs of danger to keep in mind while you're playing this.
Yeah.
So if you encounter people in a room, obviously you're not supposed to interact with them. You want to guess why?
Would you get stuck?
Not on this one. Essentially, the people might be evil, or they might try to mislead or trick you into going into other rooms that you shouldn't go into. If you find yourself in a room full of clocks, you have to leave immediately because clocks can trap you.
Okay.
So the one trick to the game is, in this, you're really allowed to go wherever you want, but it's always safer to go up than to go down.
Okay.
And lighter things and lighter colors tend to be better than darker objects and darker colors.
Okay.
If you find yourself trapped in a room, you must try to wake up.
All right.
Because if you don't, guess what?
You die.
No, you're stuck. But essentially, if you're stuck in your mind, that's not the best place to be stuck.
Basically, you'd be in a coma, right?
Pretty much. So, supposedly, if you die in the game, you die in real life.
Sword Art Online.
You'd be the only person in the world that would bring this back to anime.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It does really seem like that because in a way, this game traps you in your mind.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in that. The other thing is, if you encounter or walk into a room and there is a man in a suit who makes you uncomfortable, you're supposed to end the game immediately.
A man that makes you uncomfortable?
In a suit.
A man in a suit that makes you uncomfortable.
Because nothing suits you like a suit. You're welcome. I had to.
I'm suddenly picturing Darkiplier.
I was going for Barney from How I Met Your Mother, but you started the references, so I just kept them going.
For sure.
If the guide is having a hard time waking the person up from this trance or whatever, you want to guess what they're supposed to do?
Are they supposed to slap you in the face?
No, but it is a physical thing. They are supposed to shake you roughly and vigorously until you wake up.
Okay. Sounds legit.
Yeah, just give them a good shake. They'll come out of it. So, essentially, in this game, it's not really anything paranormal. You could argue that, I guess, but the whole point is to explore the inner workings of your mind.
Okay.
I wouldn't play any of these games.
Yeah.
Because to me, that one is, in a way, if you know everything you're supposed to know before you go into it, your brain is going to stimulate some of these things anyway.
Yeah. If you know what you're not supposed to see, you're more likely to envision it.
Exactly. So that, and I'm not the type of person that would want to lay my head in somebody's lap while a group of people around me is chanting.
Yeah, that could definitely sketch one out.
That, for one, is creepy, and for two, as soon as you close your eyes, they could sacrifice you and you'd be stuck. You'd be stuck. So, and I don't know about entrusting anything in completely to another person.
Yeah.
Especially when there are consequences.
For sure.
All of these games kind of go back to, like, there's a price to pay. There's a consequence, It really works on that. Like, if you're going to play any of these, you're opening yourself up to things that you don't 100% know about and that you probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So again, do not try this at home.
We sound like one big disclaimer this session, which is funny.
Hey, now, don't try this. Hey, now, don't try this at home.
So this next game, really interesting. It has a really similar theme that you'll see once we get into what happens. Echo, you couldn't play this game even if you wanted to. You want to guess why?
Why?
Because you can't drive.
Is it because I don't live alone?
No, it's because you can't drive.
Yeah, I can't drive.
So this one is called the 11-Mile Road.
I think I have heard of this one as well. And I believe you're not supposed to touch your radio dial and you're not supposed to look in the back seat.
Pretty much that has something to do with it. Yeah. You were the most on the nose there that you have been guessing any of these.
Yeah, because I for sure have heard about this one pretty recently.
When I was reading a bunch of these, the only one I had never heard of was Red Door, Yellow Door.
Okay.
There were a couple others on a lot of, like, the blogs and posts that I read. And I'm sure if I would have went on Reddit, I would have found a million of these games. I know there's a ton of them that exist. This one, to me, was an interesting one because it, of course, different stakes, different scenario, doesn't involve being in your house. Again, this is a really easy one to play with really high stakes.
For sure, because I'm pretty sure you die if you fuck up.
It wasn't written anywhere, but that's what I'm assuming happens as well.
I think you'll wreck your car if you fuck up.
So essentially, you need a car and a strong wish for something to play this game. It said you can do it on a motorcycle, but why on earth you would do that is, like, way beyond me.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems even less safe than doing it in the car.
And
because, like, the outside world can touch you. You're just on your bike.
Oh, yeah. And then once I started reading it, I was like, really? Why would you play this on a motorcycle? This is a one-person game, so you got to leave them friends at home.
Okay.
So to play, the first thing you have to do is find the 11-mile road. So to do that, you have to go out and pick a time late at night with pretty much no other cars on the road.
Okay.
You have to find a road that is inside some dense woods. Not outside, not around, not half through or whatever. It has to be in a densely wooded area, and the road has to be going through it.
Okay.
So it says to keep your mind's eye open while you drive, and it says you will know when you have found the 11-mile road. So something in you is supposed to tell you when you've made it there. Now, once you find this road, it is the one chance you have to stop and gather your thoughts before you start, or to just turn around and not do it.
Okay.
So once you start driving down this 11-mile road, there's a list of things you cannot do.
Yes.
You can't be listening to music or touch your radio at all. You are not allowed to open your doors or your windows.
I wouldn't want to.
You're not allowed to stop the car.
Okay.
You cannot use your phone or any other device.
I mean, you're not supposed to anyway.
Exactly.
It's the law.
And you're not supposed to drive over 30 miles an hour for safety and because it's part of the rules.
Okay.
So, there's, of course, things that start to happen as you drive down this road. The first mile, nothing is really supposed to happen. It may start to get cold in the car, in which you can turn on the heat if it gets too cold.
Okay.
But you keep driving. So then on the second mile, it's essentially the same as the first, and you just keep driving.
All right.
Now on the third mile is when I'd be saying nope, because you will begin to see movement around you, and you are not to take your eyes off the road. You're supposed to ignore every bit of movement in your car.
All right. You
And
can't quit. If you start, you can't quit.
And you gotta keep driving. So do you want to guess what happens on the 4th mile?
Does your radio turn on?
It didn't say that, but it says to ignore any voices that you hear.
Okay.
So 1 mile ago, you were seeing stuff move in your car. And now this mile, you're hearing voices in your car. But guess what you got to do?
Keep on going.
Exactly. So then we come to the 5th mile. And this is the trippy one. So when you reach this 5th mile, the trees may seem to start diminishing. You may see a lake, or you might see the bright glow of the moon, but you don't stop driving.
Okay.
No matter how pretty or random this mile of road may seem.
Okay.
You got to keep driving. So essentially, something is trying to trick you with scenery to stop your car.
Okay.
So then we reach the 6th mile of this 11-mile journey, and the trees will slowly return, and the stars will disappear, and you're back in the forest.
Okay.
Now, your headlights might start flickering. And then even more scary, your radio might start telling you what to do.
Okay.
You want to guess what you're not supposed to do at this point?
Touch your radio.
Yep. You're definitely not allowed to try to turn off the radio. And you're supposed to keep driving.
Okay.
Now, on the 7th mile, you're supposed to ignore the voices again, even if they're coming directly from behind you in your back seat. You are not to turn around, and you are to keep driving. I look in the back seat of my car every day when I get in it. It is habit for me. I check the back seat of my car. I have a 2-door car.
Yeah.
My front doors are locked when I get in the car. I still look in the back seat. If something was trying to talk to me from the back seat of my car, I can bet you anything I would be turning around. I'd be turning around and looking.
But you better not.
But you better not in this instance. So then we get to the 8th mile. And the first warning about this is do not stop driving no matter what. Even if your headlights are flickering and it makes it hard to see in front of you, you can slow down, but you absolutely cannot stop.
Okay.
And then it reiterates in saying, do not stop for anything, no exceptions. Keep driving.
Okay.
And that one got to me because it doesn't give you any examples.
Yeah.
Of what you could be seeing. It just says, don't stop for anything, no exceptions.
Yeah.
So then...
But what if your car just dies on you?
Well, it's funny you say that. Because on the 9th mile, your vehicle may stall.
Uh-oh.
It may stop.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh.
Not a fan of that.
Not a fan. So you are supposed to close your eyes if your vehicle stops. And you're not allowed to open them for any reason. So you have to bird box challenge turning your car on until it starts because you ain't allowed to look.
For sure.
So then it says, once your car starts, you are to slam on the gas and keep driving. So
sounds like a smart idea.
Car starts, you're supposed to nope on out of that.
For sure.
For sure. So on the 10th mile, would you like to take another stab in the dark on what the 10th mile says?
Does stuff start appearing in your backseat?
Kinda. Okay. So basically, it didn't say anywhere what, like a lot of these games, it's just really vague.
Yeah.
Unless you're reading people's accounts. And I wanted to get more into what they were so that maybe in a later episode we could visit, oh, okay, we've talked about this game before. Yeah. Here's accounts from it. But on the 10th mile, you're not allowed to look in your mirrors.
Okay.
You're not allowed to look in your mirrors, and you're not allowed to look in your back seat. You're to keep driving. So basically, the overall theme of this is no matter what happens, you're supposed to keep driving. You're not supposed to look around. You're not supposed to touch your radio. And no matter what, if your car stops, you are to close your eyes and try to get it going again.
Okay.
Pretty much so the overall theme.
Yeah.
So then you reach the 11th mile, where once again, and it says for sure, your vehicle will stall in front of a red light.
Okay.
You are not supposed to look at the light. You're to close your eyes, cover your ears, whatever you have to do. Just do not open your eyes until your vehicle starts again. You're supposed to ignore voices. Here's the trippier thing. You're supposed to ignore if something grabs you.
Oof. Might be
Eh,
difficult.
That is the one thing I can never do. If I've got my eyes closed and my ears covered and something grabs me from behind,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to scream bloody murder.
Well, yeah.
You would be hearing me in a different country. That's how loud I would scream. Like, I'm
We'd
not
hear
even
you all the
joking.
way in Canada.
Canada, I mean, they would probably hear me in Australia. Like, it's beyond how loud I would be if that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And you're supposed to just ignore everything, no matter what's happening.
Okay.
Then once your car restarts, you keep driving a little bit farther down the road.
Okay.
You keep driving until you hit a dead end where you can stop. This is the one time you're allowed to stop.
Mm-hmm.
This is also once you stop where you make your wish. And it says that you're not just simply supposed to make this wish. You are supposed to envision it, just believe full heartedly in it. Then it's when you start checking stuff. If it is something
Okay.
small that you've wished for, you're supposed to check your pocket. If it is something that couldn't possibly fit in your pocket, you're supposed to check your back seat or your trunk. And
Okay.
if the thing you wish for is not an object or a material item, you're supposed to go home and wait for it to happen. Now, another thing I read is obviously if you do this, you're going to have some PTSD.
Yeah, probably, because that's fairly intense.
Yeah. So I don't know how to reiterate this other than to me, there is nothing worth doing this. Because if you mess up, it sounds like you're done.
Yeah.
And even if you don't mess up, I don't know how this wouldn't mess your mind up for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would ever be able to get back in a car.
Yeah, I mean, I have enough problems with cars already.
Exactly. So if we do eventually do like a looking up or trying to find on the internet some things that have happened to people while they've played these games or
Mm-hmm.
watching some of the YouTube videos of people playing these games. Again, I'm not encouraging anybody to play these ever,
Yeah.
but I know people have. That's the one game I would want to like read about people's experiences with if they're telling the truth because I couldn't fathom doing it, let alone trying to keep driving down the road after something's grabbed me.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that you can't see, something that you're not supposed to look at. Nope.
So, the last one I have written down, unless we decide to look more up just because we're having fun right now.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess what the last one I have written down is?
Okay, so you said earlier it was a Korean game?
It said it originated in Korea, and I only read that on one area, but I found it interesting enough, and I kind of believe it with the type of game that it is and what you're supposed to accomplish. But I mean, I'd be willing to look more into that, and in the future, I will double check things before I state them.
Okay.
But of course, these are all games, and a lot of these have origins that we don't know. A lot of them are creepy pastas. If we're telling you like a true story, we're gonna have all of the facts nailed down. But
Yeah.
games are one of those things where I was like, well, this is a neat little fact that I found. I hope it's right.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so my guess for this last game is it a hide and seek game?
No.
No, okay. Because I was thinking about one where you're supposed to get a doll and do something weird to it so that it'll become haunted, and you're supposed to play hide and seek with the doll. And if it finds you, it will kill you. And if you are seeking the doll, you stab the doll. Yeah, I don't know.
I've read
It's a
about
different one.
Yeah, that's a completely different one. I read about it. That is one that I thought maybe could possibly be a full episode in and of itself, or hide and seek games could be
Yeah.
a full episode in and of themselves because as I was reading and learning about these, I've read about them before, but when I was doing research for this specific one, a lot of the games, at least a good 3 or 4 of them, were related to invoking a ghost or a demon or anything like that, either into a doll or just into your house to play these games.
Yes.
And I was just all like, I feel like there's enough of these to be their own thing. So
Yeah.
it is not a hide and seek game.
There's like the Midnight Man one and the thing with the doll that I just mentioned, and I know there's a couple others. Like I think there's one where you're supposed to like just find a hiding spot and just say I want to play hide and seek, then something will come try to find you.
And again, why anybody would do that?
Yeah, how bored do you have to be to play hide and seek with demons?
Beyond, I think. You have to be beyond bored.
Yeah.
So for this last one, I went with something that was way different than the others. I might type in and like grab a couple more things from this game before we end. Just
Okay.
because the first time I read about it, I remember it talking about all the things that could go wrong. The article that I took most of the information for the last game off of, or the website or whatever, it didn't have anything that could go wrong. Majority of the websites that I were on today just simply listed like maybe a couple things that could go wrong or the warnings for it, but they mainly just talked about how to play them. Most of them listed them in like 10 games you should never play, 10 paranormal things you should never do.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was Ouija boards. And again,
Yeah.
Ouija boards can be an episode all their own. I have a lot of
For
rules
sure.
against them, which we can get
Yeah.
into sometime. I'm sure we'll get into all my rules and things against paranormal stuff at another point. But I went with the elevator game.
Okay.
It
Again,
was
I have heard of this, but I do not know the details completely.
so there's a lot of speculations of people who have went missing after being on elevators and things like that that they were doing this game. None of that can really be
Yes.
confirmed, but nevertheless, this is supposed to take you to an entrance to the other world.
Okay. Like
So
just like an alternate dimension or
pretty much. A bunch of the other ones I read called it another dimension. The first time I read about this, it was another dimension, but again, I just grabbed the majority of the facts that I could get right away. This is said to give the player access to another world, and to
Okay.
play, you need to find a building where you will not be interrupted in the elevator that has at least 10 floors.
Okay.
So, of course, this is a play alone game. A lot of these are. So, no one else can join you in this elevator. So, if you start going to these floors and the doors open and somebody gets on,
You have to start over,
yeah, you have to start over. So, essentially, in this game, you have to press floor numbers in a very specific order.
Okay.
This is why I only went with one article for this. A lot of them said the same floors, but I didn't want to get like too many like contradictions.
Yeah.
So basically, to start the game, you go to the 4th floor, but you don't get off.
Okay.
Go to the 2nd floor, then the 6th floor, and then the 2nd floor, and then the 10th floor. You don't leave the elevator. Obviously, that's part of it right now because you're just starting.
Mm-hmm.
So then, after you do that, you go to the 5th floor. When you get to the 5th floor, a young woman will walk into the elevator with you.
Okay.
You don't speak to her. You don't look at her. It is said that she will probably look familiar to the person. She might try to acknowledge you. You're just not supposed to speak or look at this person. So then you press the button to go back to the 1st floor. Now, at this point in the game, one of two things can happen. If you press the button to go to the 1st floor and the elevator goes down to the 1st floor, you are to exit the moment the doors open and leave. And you are not supposed to look back. You're not supposed to speak. And you're actually supposed to never come back to that building again.
Okay.
So that, that's one outcome of the game. Now, if you press the button to go to the 1st floor and the elevator starts to go up and reaches the 10th floor, when the elevator doors open, you can get off or stay on the elevator.
Okay.
Now, if you get off, this woman that you were not supposed to speak to may say your name.
Okay.
She may say your name. She may start asking you a question. You don't answer and you don't speak to her.
Okay.
So now at this point, you're in this other dimension. And to know for sure, there should be nobody else there.
Okay.
Now you have to do everything to return. So to return, you have to return to the exact elevator you came from. Press the buttons in the same order as mentioned before, finishing at the 5th floor. Once you're at the 5th floor, you press the button to go to the 1st floor.
Okay.
So this will cause the elevator to start going to the 10th floor again.
Okay.
You are supposed to press any other floor button to stop the elevator before it reaches the 10th floor.
Okay.
Once you do that, you can press the button to go back down to the 1st floor. You make sure everything around you looks normal, like it did when you got on the elevator.
Yeah.
Okay. If something doesn't look right, you're not supposed to exit the elevator. You are to stay on that elevator and repeat the steps.
Okay.
So that is the elevator game. The article I've read about it before did say that, like, once you got to the 10th floor, you have to be careful because everything kind of tries to trick you into not being able to get back.
Okay.
That everything just looks warped and different, and it makes it really hard to get back. There are videos on YouTube of people playing this game.
Yeah.
There are also plenty of YouTube videos that will tell you more about it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There are plenty of websites that talk about it too. Now, a big thing for why people play these, even though they have such high risks, goes back to pretty much show psychology and the way our brains work.
Yeah.
There is this wonderful thing our brain does where when you're put in a situation, like say you're standing in a very high area and you look down, you go, oh, I could fall from here.
Yep. It happens to me all the time.
Oh, I could simply drop my phone and it would just break. Maybe I should drop my phone. You don't really want to. You don't really want to fall from that height. It is just something weird our brain does.
Yep.
I did look it up, and it does say in a couple other places that it did originate in Korea.
Okay.
And a lot of people have said it is the creepiest one that you could possibly do. Now, I don't believe that. I think if you're going to welcome something into your house, that is the creepiest
if you're
thing.
going to bring a demon into your closet forever, that would not be ideal.
So, in this article I'm looking at right now, it says the elevator game is searched 33,000 times a month.
Oh, wow. So, it's pretty prolific.
And another thing to note is the woman may or may not enter the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a thing. A couple places they said she would. A couple places say she may or may not. The important thing is, even if she doesn't, or even if she does, the person is just supposed to ignore her at all costs. All right. Now, if anybody's going to play this game, I hope they looked into the building that they're playing this game in, because let me tell you, I have been in some sketchy elevators.
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing.
There used to be this elevator at this old therapy office that I went to that was very, very small, very dim, and it was just real creepy. So every time I went after the first time I took the elevator, I never took the elevator again because it creeped me out.
Yeah, and again, this new article I looked up, it's the exact same order on the floors. She may or may not try to interact with you. The woman on the 5th floor, she may or may not enter. It also says that when you get to the 10th floor, the power may be out. And I've read that a couple different places. Some players say that they can look out windows, but all you see is red. It says some players claim to look out windows and see only a red cross in the distance.
Okay.
Now it says if you choose to exit the elevator, that the woman may also try to stop you. Again, you're not supposed to interact with this person.
Uh-huh.
So take that for what you will.
Yeah.
They think that the game is also inspired by a short film, which you can watch on YouTube. And of course, there's always firsthand accounts out there on sites, probably like Reddit, because nowadays that's the new place you go on the internet to read stuff.
For sure.
And of course, there are hundreds of these games. This is a subject that we'll probably revisit a lot. The game you were talking about with the doll, most people do use a teddy bear for that game, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. Of course, like the most notorious, the most well-known game, I guess you would call it, that falls under this category would be Bloody Mary.
Yeah, and it is pretty simple to do as well.
Most of them. The only complex one that I saw, and I didn't list, even though I read a couple articles on it, was called The Three Kings.
Okay, I haven't even heard of that one before either.
You set up 2 mirrors and you sit in the middle, but there's a lot that goes into that game. That one becomes more of a ritual and less of a game. Yeah. Of course, like a bunch of them, it's one person playing, and the reason I didn't want to talk about it is because I couldn't find anything that you either gained or that could happen. Yeah. Other than if you do it, you could possibly have lucid nightmares for a while, but I think if you're playing any of these games, you're going to get that. Although if it's a lucid nightmare, you can kind of control what's going on. Kind of. I always love when I'm online looking at stuff, and I'm sorry for anybody who hears my mouse clicking while I'm doing this. When you just read, I tried this game and I did it wrong, and the woman
Oh,
followed me back home. Like, that's another reason you shouldn't do them.
yeah.
That's a big old reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah. Even if you know all the rules, you could still make a mistake, and mistakes always have consequences, especially when you're trying to mess with the paranormal.
If you're messing with anything that's not of this world or whatever you want to call it, there's gonna be probably consequences. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, you really need to take things seriously because the reality of everything is that none of us really know for sure what's going on around us.
Yeah.
If you're welcoming something into your home that you cannot see
Yeah.
or
Yeah. And
whatever,
once it's there, you can't control it.
that is the thing. And that's why I think we're so strong about the do not do this, do not play these games, because even if you're doing them somewhere else, if something happens, you can take that with you. Whether it's
Yeah.
a ghost or a demon or something from another universe that just leaked through into this one, whatever it was, things can follow you. Even things you can't see. That's the honest reality. And I hope we didn't creep people
Yeah.
out too much that they don't come back. But I think that's part of this is letting people know what can and cannot happen if you're playing these creepy games. Echo, can you think of anything off the top of your head that is another game like this that isn't one of the hide and seek ones? Can you name any more?
Okay. So I don't know what it's called, but I heard of one where you're supposed to call out to this man in the field. I think maybe Man in the Field is what it's called. You're supposed to call out for him and you want to make a wish and you're supposed to do it near a cornfield. And I mean, we're in Indiana, so we can do that so easy.
I mean, I
We can
couldn't
walk
right
out our
now. We could
door.
walk out our door for the most part and look at a cornfield.
Yeah, but let's see. Let's see if I can find it real fast.
It's so funny how so many of these games involve getting something that you're wishing for
Yeah,
because it's, again,
because,
high stakes.
yes. Yeah, the Man in the Field is what it's called.
The thing that I can kind of compare it to the most is if anybody has ever watched Once Upon a Time and you know the Rumpelstiltskin character.
Yes.
His big quote is magic comes with a price.
Yes.
And that seems to be what these games are. You can do it,
Yeah.
but it comes with a price.
Yeah.
And
And you might not get what you're actually looking for.
you might not get what you're actually wishing for. You might get what you're wishing for, but you're going to be dealing with PTSD or some other really traumatic thing for the rest of your life.
Or what you wish for wouldn't happen the way you thought it.
Exactly.
Like you could say, I wish so and so were madly in love with me. And just because you said it that certain way, it could go very wrong.
Exactly. Because madly in love with you is not a phrase that I would use to wish for something.
Yes. Because I mean, like they could start stalking you instead of actually like saying, "Hey, I would like to date you." Yeah. Or they could be, "Oh, like I can't live without you, and I won't let you live without me." So it could end up in a murder suicide situation.
A possible, very stabby situation could come from that.
Yes.
So this man in a field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it a cornfield? Because
it's very similar to the Candle Game and the Midnight Game. It originates from the British Isles during the Middle Ages. And it says that scarecrow in your backyard, it's not a scarecrow. As always, play at your own risk.
see, I thought it had something to do with scarecrows.
Yes. You have to have a house with a backyard, and inside the house should be at least one room that has only one door. Ideally, this room should be empty, and ideally, the sole door should have a lock. You need a non electric source of light, so a candle, a lantern, matches, lighter. You need to have a cross, and you need to have a watch or a clock that is analog. You don't need a cell phone because that won't work for you. You begin after sunset, but before midnight, and how much time you leave yourself is up to you, but you better give yourself more than an hour before midnight. Clear the house and backyard of other people. Make sure you have the crucifix on your person. You need to light your candle or lantern, and you need to enter the backyard and turn to face the house. And you will repeat the following phrase 7 times, but who will scare the crows away? After the 7th repetition, listen. If you hear nothing, the summoning has failed, and don't do anything. You're just going to have to give up. If you hear a voice behind you or in your head, the summoning has succeeded and you may proceed. The voice in your head will say that's not your biggest problem and you need to heed its warning. You need to return to your house and close the door behind you. Don't look back. You need to go to the room that has only one door, and it should be empty of all objects, but if it's not, close anything in the room that can be opened. Drawers, closets, windows, doors, boxes, containers, bags, don't miss anything. If it can be opened, it must be closed. And that's going to be the safest place that you can be in your house. Leave your crucifix in the safe room and bring your candle or lantern with you. So you exit the safe room. Everything in your house that can be opened needs to be closed before the clock strikes 12. If you see a man with ashen skin in your peripheral vision, don't look at him. Don't look in your backyard. Just don't do it. If you look in the backyard, you need to go immediately back to your safe room and close and lock the door. Find your cross, grasp it tightly, and pray that you did not leave anything in that room open. If you've looked in the backyard, you'll need to just stay there until 6 a.m. no matter what. After you've closed everything in the house and you're positive that you've closed everything, go to bed and close the final thing, your eyes. Sleep if you can, but do not open your eyes. If you wake up in the morning, congratulations, you won.
Again, I feel the need to say, do not welcome things that shouldn't be in your home to your home.
Yeah, for sure. Because like even if you get your wish, again, it probably won't be worth it.
I don't see much being worth it for you to try any of this stuff. I mean, there are a lot of people that can probably walk outside and look at a field and do this.
Yeah.
But the fact is like, no matter what, if it works or not, you're gonna imagine hearing whatever the words are to any of these rituals. And then you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck doing this for hours. None of it is something that should be risked. And I think when it comes to at least paranormal things, you're going to hear us say, don't do it a lot. Because just don't.
It's just really not worth messing with things that may not be so easily perceived. Like if you might not notice it, like it could still mess with
things. Aren't always as they seem. What could be a joke or could be a fun time, most of the time with this kind of stuff, you'll hear stories where it didn't turn out to be such a good time or such a big joke. If you want to play something and you want to get scared, I can guarantee you there are 1,000 video games that are just like a button click away that will scare you just fine. I promise. Yeah. We were in high school. I think the big one was Slender Man.
Oh, yeah.
That game first came out when we were in high school, and believe me, we got plenty scared playing that.
And believe me, living out in the woods like I do, I can't walk around outside at night with a flashlight on because it reminds me of that game too much. It sketches me out. I would much rather walk in the pitch black of night than walk around outdoors in a flashlight, thanks to the Slender Man.
If you've stuck it out this long, I want to say thank you. We'll get the hang of it eventually, I promise. I promise that we won't research stuff in the middle of every podcast. I think it mostly happened because I picked such an odd topic, and usually if you challenge Echo to come up with anything, she'll do it. You'll just be waiting a minute.
Yeah, I just have to find it, and it didn't take me that long.
No, it didn't. You had it ready to go, and it was a subject in which I could talk about for a couple minutes. Definitely don't think I'd be playing that last game, though.
Yeah, because, like, what if you missed something?
What if you missed something, and also...
Like, what if you forgot to close your toilet lid? What if that was the reason you fucking died? You forgot to close your toilet lid.
That would be the last thing that I would remember to close, you know?
Exactly.
Anybody who knows me knows I am an avid Stephen King fan. I've read a ton of the books. I collect the movies. I am in awe of a lot of his work. And one of the things that I have, and I'm very proud of, is I own almost every single Children of the Corn movie. And to this date, I've maybe watched all but 2.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, living where we live, I would not be going outside and inviting any kind of scarecrow man into my house, especially with it being a cornfield. Because not only would I get nightmares from that, I would probably get nightmares from thinking tiny children are out there in that corn that are coming to get me, and that's a big thing too. It's just one of those things. Never invite something that we'll make that one of the big paranormal rules. You never invite anything in because
it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, let me tell you this. The answer no to something like a ghost or a demon, it's like telling no to a toddler. There's like a very, very small chance that they're going to listen. You don't want that in your house forever. You don't want to bring that home with you. That's something that'll probably be a big topic when and if we get around to Ouija boards, which I'm sure we will. Things don't always listen. I even think there's some like creatures and some other things that follow that rule of just do not listen. That being said, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of podcasts where that's the rule. Just don't invite anything. Like, we're going to be that weird about it. No invitations.
You can't sit us.
We are going to invite you back to this podcast, though. You can sit with us for the podcast. The rules are simple.
Yes. But no ghosts, no demons.
No ghosts, no demons. You need to bring a cup of tea or a hot beverage. You need to sit down. And you need to be ready for some strange and some weird and possibly unforgettable conversations.